Okay, so on this episode, I'm joined by Daisy, who had a very interesting encounter. Now, we spoke briefly on the phone the other day, and what was interesting to me was when I'm bringing things up, how you sort of realised how they were there in the background all the time. That you didn't put two and two together. You had the experience, and then you've had other things going on, but you never really made the connection between the two events.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
and I thought that was really interesting. So we're going to get into a bit of that in this episode. But do you want to tell us a little bit about where you are located, the area that you're located in, and then go into your story? The initial thing that happened to you is actually seeing the creature.
Yeah, okay. Right, hello everyone. I live in a small village in the Surrey Sussex border. It's much more rural than you would think it could be here. I'm on a farm which is about a mile off the road, and our house just backs straight out onto quite large woodlands and fields. There's a big river running through, and it feels very ancient. I was born on this farm, and I'm very connected to it, and it really does. The house is 16th century, the farm was in the Domesday Book, and it just feels absolutely ancient. There's old cart tracks. I'm positive there's ley lines here. It's an incredible place to grow up in. Right. What happened to me was 15, maybe 20 years ago. Since then, obviously, other things have happened a lot. I was walking with two dogs down an old cart track through the woods. It was in the morning, so obviously daylight. Deep in thought, looking down at the ground, just wandering along. And there's a sharp bend up ahead of me with trees either side, so you can't see around this bend before literally you are right on it. As I said, I'm looking down at the ground, and just as I was aware that the dogs were unhappy, so I looked up, and as I looked up, this creature came walking around the corner towards us. It looked like it was doing the same thing, like it was just wandering along, minding its own business, looking down at the ground. It became aware of me as I saw it, and it happened so fast. As it looked up and saw me, it was on 4 feet. As it looked up and saw me, it stood straight up, spun round and ran off. And it happened so quick. But I can still, to this day, I can't see what its face was like. I can see its body. I can see its legs were the shape of a dog legs, very muscular. It wasn't very tall. I'm 5'2", and it was probably 5'5", 5'6". So maybe juvenile, whatever it was. I don't know. Like I said, didn't see its face, but it was covered in long hair, the length of, I would say, like a golden retriever's tail, that type of length. But parts of it were much longer. Can't tell you about a tail, but I think it had a tail. Trying to think. And as it spun away from me, I can't explain it other than it disappeared. It disappeared before it could get far enough away for me to be out of sight. And I can still see it in my head now happening. It was almost like as it disappeared, it was almost like parts of it were being pulled. So it was almost like, if you can imagine the hair getting longer, and then it just faded. It was gone. I had no feeling of malice from it. I felt no harm coming from it. If anything, I felt like maybe it was lost, and it felt not hurt, but fragile in a way. It was just surprised to see me as I was it.
Would vulnerable be a good word to describe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was. That's part of the reason why I think, and I get the feeling it was juvenile. I get the feeling it was young and it was lost, and it became aware that it shouldn't have been there. That was it. It was everything that about that popped into my head. It was almost like it was telling me.
And we've got a description of the body and the fur on this thing, and that you say it was like a golden colour. And this, just for the audience, was daylight, so it was bright.
Yeah, it was in the morning, probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's not a dark situation by any means.
No, it was no. I say in the woodlands, but there's a field running beside that part of the wood, so the sun's coming through there, and you can see what you're seeing clearly. There was absolutely no mistaking what I saw, and as so many other people see these things in this country, there's nothing like that. We have nothing like that to mistake it for. There's nothing.
And the face, I mean, this is not uncommon, but you didn't see much detail in the face, other than it being like flat, like a humanish.
Yeah, I can see it in my head still now because it imprinted itself in my brain so strongly. And I keep trying to look back on it and see the face. I know it's like I'm almost there, but no, I'm not getting it. No.
And nothing about the eyes stood out or anything like that. It was just.
No, I can't see the eyes or even the ears. Yeah, well, can't see about the ears.
I mean, you can only describe what you saw. So that, I mean, but that the description in itself is not. It's not very different to what I've heard many times now. So, because a lot of people assume that this thing with having the dog legs and the long fit, they assume that it's going to have like some sort of snout. That's not necessarily the case.
No.
Okay, so that's the story in a nutshell. How did the dogs react? Just briefly.
They were very worried before this happened. They hadn't been running too far up ahead of me, but they had been trotting along sniffing, and that was why I looked up, because basically they came straight back to me, and I had one on either side. I hadn't asked them to heel or anything. They were just straight back with me. They were obviously much more aware of it before I was.
And after you saw the creature, they
literally clung to my side until we got back home.
Yeah.
I say, it unsettled me, but it didn't scare me at the time. Things that have happened since then have scared me more than actually seeing that.
Yeah, we'll definitely come on to some of them.
Yeah.
In fact, should we go on to the second encounter let's call it encounter 2. Well, do you want to start with the one with the full moon first before I go into your maps?
Oh, the full moon. Okay, yeah. So that was January 23. Like I said, our house it's big. It's a big old farmhouse. It's got a huge big garden. We have a river at the bottom of the garden, and it goes straight out into the woodlands. So it was about 2 a.m. and it was a full moon, and it was blazing through my bedroom windows. And I was like, it's no good. I can't ignore that. I've got to go outside. I want to be outside and be, do my thing under the full moon. So off I go down the bottom of the garden with my dog, who is, as I said to you before, he can be very aggressive. He has to actually wear a muzzle when I'm out with other people. And he's very extremely protective over me. Doesn't take any shit from anyone. Right. So he was actually on the lead beside me. And I walked down the bottom of the garden, and I was instantly aware that he was unhappy. He would be pulling on the lead, sniffing at everything, really pulling, really active. And he was just walking straight beside me. And when I looked down at him, his tail at that point wasn't between his legs, but it was hanging, which was really unusual for him. And I was picking up something, and in my head, something kept telling me you shouldn't be doing this. Go back indoors. Just go indoors, put the telly on and sit by the fire. And I was like, no, I really want to do this. I can't let myself be frightened. So I went down to the bottom of the garden, and I'm standing there looking at the full moon. And I felt my dog tucking behind me, and I looked down at him, and he was, I'd say, almost cowering. And he had his tail between his legs right flat against his stomach. And then I became aware that to my right-hand side, there was something in the bush. It's a big old laurel tree, which is really thick. You can't see in there. And I could hear this breathing, and it was I say I never saw anything, but it was so close. I felt like if I put my hand into that bush, I would have touched it. And it was either, whatever it was either up in the tree or was much taller than the thing that I'd originally seen. Because, my right ear, I could hear it above my ear, and it was a real deep, heavy breathing. And I stood there for a second listening to it, and I thought, this is stupid. This really isn't a good situation to be in. So obviously I walked back up the garden into the house. Yeah. And with my dog beside me, with his all the way up the garden, his tail was right between his legs. If that had been anything like a deer, a fox, badger, anything, which it wasn't, because I know it wasn't by the height of the breathing, he'd have been going mad. He'd have been trying to get it. If it had been a person, he'd have been going ballistic. But he wasn't. He was just really, really quiet. Like I said, with his tail between his legs. And he was terrified.
Is that tree climbable? You know, if a human being wanted to climb.
It is.
It is, yeah.
It is. It's a big old laurel tree, and it has got some big thick branches in it.
Okay, so something could have been higher up, but you're estimating that the breathing in itself came from higher up.
I'd say it was. So, like I said, I'm 5'2". I said it had the breathing had to have been at least 6 foot high, maybe higher, maybe 7.
That sort of coincides with what your mother saw. So do you want to go into what your mum saw? And I believe this was prior to even your first encounter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But I think around about the same summer, but a few months apart. The same. My mum has passed away 4 years ago, so I can't ask her any more questions about it, obviously. But mum was walking. It was about half a mile away from where I had seen what I saw. Daylight again. She was walking again with a dog, and it was a lovely sunny day, no wind at all. She was coming up a bank from the brook, and there's a big old maple tree on the right hand side. She said as she got level with this tree, it started to shake. She said the branches in the top of this tree, and it's a big tree, were actually shaking. And she stood there looking, thinking, what the hell is that? And she saw this face up there, and she said, you'll never believe what I saw. And she was really quite shook up. She said, I saw the face of a monkey. She said it was just like a monkey up in this tree. And it was like he had his hands around these big branches, rocking them. No, and my mum was she was a really strong character, and it frightened her. I actually think because she didn't go upwards much after that, and I do think it was partially because of that. It really frightened her.
It really put her off, But it's interesting because now that behaviour in itself has been spoken about for all over the world. So. It's not uncommon for this shaking of the tree and this like display, and I wonder if that's just because it felt like cornered, because it's up there and there's nowhere for it to go. I don't know why, but did she ever mention it vocalizing or?
No, nothing.
It was just simply shaking this tree, but that was enough. That was enough to make her leave.
Yeah, right. It really did frighten her.
Okay, so. That's the couple of stories, the interesting things that have happened, and then like I said before, the intro there. When we was talking the other day, I happened to ask you, have you had any strange sounds on your property? On your banging on your walls, that sort of thing. And interestingly, you had.
Yes, yeah, and it's actually, to me, it's more scary than seeing what I saw. Right, so my bedroom is like a small cottage. I live with my dad. I look after him, and my bedroom is separated from the main house. But we have a long alleyway between the two. Either end of this alleyway are two big doors. One end is a big old solid oak door. The other end, which is closer to my bedroom door, is a solid but like a stable door. Two halves.
Yep.
And every now and then, and it's been happening more recently, and it frightens me. It's if you can imagine a bloody great pig charging up that garden and hitting that door, full pelt, that's what it's like. And I can hear the door frame physically shaking. And because that wall is attached to my bedroom, it's a hell of a noise. And it really is. I mean, once it's happened twice in the night. Most of the time it only happened once. And like I said, I think I had a couple of years where it didn't happen at all. And then recently I've had it happen twice in a week.
Yeah. Do you remember do you remember when the first time you recall this happening?
Probably
are we talking years or months or?
Yeah, I think around 10 years ago that started to happen. So it's been, yes, it's been. Oh, sorry, that's my owl.
So I mean, what sort of time frame between the encounter and I mean,
okay.
you're talking a few years or?
Sorry, what was that? Say it again.
I say, what sort of time frame between like you seeing the creature and the banging, or was the banging first, or?
Yeah.
Just so I can get it in chronological order. That's all.
Yeah. I would say maybe about 8 years, something like that. Maybe 8 years.
So after seeing the creature and then the banging started.
Yeah.
Okay.
But between seeing the creature and the banging, other things have happened, and again, you've just jogged my memory for talking about the breathing. Sorry, my owl is hooting and my dog is howling.
It's like Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah, I know it is, but it really is here. I was again sitting up out on the farm, nighttime, with my then dog, and they're close beside a hedge. Again, looking at the full moon, and to my left-hand side, I could hear something walking down the field, but close into the hedge. There was no way I could see what it was, and I just stood there thinking, "The hell is that? Is that a big deer?" And I thought, we haven't got red deer here, but it sounded bigger than a roe deer.
Yeah.
But then I could hear it breathing, and I had totally forgot about this. So I was trying to jog my memory with things, and then I swear I heard it grunting. And at the time, I remember thinking, that's a big old deer, and he's just laid down, and he's grunting as he's laid down, or that type of thing. But now, putting two and two together, I'm thinking, Christ, I wonder if that was the same thing. I wonder if that was him.
So when you saw this, it squatted down. Is that what you?
No, I didn't see it. I just heard it, and I was thinking the way it grunted was because I'm on a farm and I hear all the noises the animal makes. Sometimes when sheep have been laying down and they've been laying down a long time, they grunt because they're getting uncomfortable. They've been on their bellies too long.
Yeah. And
there were no sheep out there. We actually haven't got any sheep on the farm anymore. And there were no animals, no cattle, nothing out there. But I remember thinking, like I said, if that was a deer, it had to be a red deer because it was bigger than a roe deer. And there are no red deer here. So it sounded like a big animal that was just, I don't know, uncomfortable, and he was just grunting as he either stood there or was unaware that I was there and had laid down. I don't know. I don't know.
And how would you describe the breathing? I mean, are we talking
very deep? Again, like what I heard in the laurel tree. Yeah. Very, like, you can imagine just something very heavy. Very heavy.
I've had a couple of people describe the breathing as laboured. Would you?
Almost, yeah.
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 But it's really, it's not like where humans breathe it. I mean, if you've been running for a while, it might be a bit more exaggerated breathing, but I mean, it's audible from a distance. So. Yeah.
It's a job to describe. Like you say, it's not fast. It's not panting like they've been running or excited or anything. It's just a very drawn out, heavy breathing.
So that was the banging, and you're saying that's happened recently as well. And like I said to you the other day, if you can get some sort of dictaphone or something cheap, that you can just put near that door, if you could capture something like that, that'd be interesting, really interesting to listen to. And then then there was something else that we touched on, which was gifting. obviously this crops up from time to time, and
Yeah.
you've had a couple of rocks deposited on a particular route that you take. Do you
Ye-
want to tell us about that?
Yes. Yeah, I had actually meant to take a photo and send them to you.
Yeah, please do.
Right, so I've got them right in front of me. One is the size of my hand, the length of my hand, and it has got a face on it. It's ironstone, and it's really unbelievable actually, because if you could imagine the face of this thing, that is what this stone looks like. Got a huge big eyebrows. It's got a nose, and it actually looks, I'd say it looks quite menacing, really, looking at it. Not that I don't let it scare me, but it does look quite menacing.
And this was found on a track that you regularly walk.
Yeah, exactly. I walk this track literally every single day because it leads off to other walks, and there it was, just flat there on the path.
And it stood out because of the colour of it.
Yeah. And instantly, it was like I was drawn to it. So it's almost like it pulled me to it. That's what I'd explain. And I picked, because I didn't see the face until I picked it up. And I just picked it up, and this face just like lurched out at me.
But the rock itself is not from that area.
Well, no. Well, we do, to be honest, we do have ironstone here. But I say I walk that path literally every single day. It's quite a smooth track.
Yeah.
And
so did this happen more than once?
Yeah, and I have one more which is smaller than that, but it has the same type of face on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Was that found in a similar location, or?
Yes, it was similar field, but further up the track. Yeah.
But again, we don't know that this is definitely linked. It's just interesting that it happens in the same location. While this thing is around. The next thing to touch on is this intimidation feeling. This where you've had these feelings of not being welcome. So again, just so the audience know, this is an area that you grew up in. You've walked hundreds of miles. You've walked this place over and over again, and then every now and again you walk into a particular location or a certain track, and then you feel this overwhelming sense of not being welcome, not being wanted. Do you want to describe what that feels like when you get that, and how it makes you what you do? Basically.
As well, as just before you say, like I said, I was born here, I've grown up here, I know every single inch of those woods better than anyone else I can imagine, and I love those woods. I could never imagine something scaring me that much to put me off walking in them, but it does every now and then. And I will be walking along. It could be a beautiful day and I'm just listening to the birds. The dogs are happy. And then all of a sudden the dogs will be beside me and I will literally hear in my head, leave, go now, just go. And it'll pull me up and I'll stand there and I'll look around and I think, but it's beautiful. I want to stay up here. And I'll hear it again. Most now, every time I hear it, I will listen and I will just get out there the fastest way I can, climb through a hedge into the fields, whatever. But it's a real intense feeling. You feel it in your gut, and you honestly do feel that if you don't listen to it, something's going to happen. And I couldn't tell you what, but something's going to happen. And it's really powerful. It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting. That feeling, and obviously your instinct is to listen to it, which is probably wise. There was an occasion where you got this feeling and somebody contacted you to let you know that
my sister. That's it. Yeah, I was up the woods. My sister lives about 20 miles away from me. She had been up there. I mean, obviously she grew up here as a kid. Left about 30 years ago. She will come back now every now and then, and she'll walk up there with me. So she knows them well, but not like me. And she's been up there. She's had the same feeling. She's been told to leave and she's listened. But this particular day, she was at home. I'm up the woods walking with dogs again. And she rang me up. And she was instantly, I could tell something was wrong. And she said, "You're up the woods, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." She went, "I've just been told you're in danger. You've got to leave now." She's 20 miles away. And she picked that up. And and that was it. And I listened, and I climbed through the hedge into the field.
And prior to her ringing you and giving you that advice, was you already picking up on this yourself and ignoring it? Or
I did. I did, because I actually remember saying to her, I've been told the same thing. And like, if you spoke to her, she'd say the same thing. I do remember saying to her that I've been told the same thing, and I spoke to her the whole time until I was out of the woods.
Yeah, I mean, that is. I know the skeptics will say it's just this and that, but for that to happen at that time, when you've gotten that feeling, and then she rings you and gives you basically the same message, I mean, and that's only happened once, so it's that's more than a coincidence. What about, because the other person that is on the farm, obviously your mum's passed away, but your dad's still there. I mean, what does your dad feel about this, or has he seen anything or heard anything? Or
he's heard things. He's heard things. A couple of years ago, he was standing out in the back garden at night time, letting the dog out for a wee, and he was looking over the hedge to where the river is, and he came back up, and he actually looked a bit shook up, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I can hear something down there." He said, I can't tell you what it is," he said, and he's like me, he knows the noises all the badgers make, and they can scare the bloody life out of some people if they don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And, my dad's in his 80s. He's heard every single country noise there is, and it scared him. And he just said, I don't know what it is. And I said, "What's it like?" And he said, "I don't know." He said, "It's sort of like a howl." He said he didn't know if it was like a big cat or what it was. It was like a howl and a scream, which, going back to, you've just jogged my memory, what I heard about 10 days ago, maybe getting on for 2 weeks, up the woods again, walking around, beautiful day, and recently someone has moved close to those woods with alpacas, and they make incredibly weird noises. I was up in the woods and I heard a noise, and I remember thinking, I stopped and I listened, and I thought, that must be the alpacas, but I don't think I'd hear them from this direction. But I thought, it's got to be the alpacas. So stood and listened, and I didn't hear anything. And then I moved on, and I went up into the other end of the woods and heard it again. I actually think it was closer to me that time, and it was in the completely different direction from the alpacas. And it was like a scream, sort of a deep scream. It wasn't that long. It didn't draw out for too long, but I tell you what, if I had hackles, they would have bloody stood up,
Yeah, and this is daytime again.
Daytime again.
Yeah.
Each time I've heard the breathing, it's at night time, and that's maybe because something can get closer to me.
Yeah,
maybe that's the reason. Yeah, but
or maybe you've got closer to it, by by the same logic. I mean, it's interesting because these things do go on in the UK, and I know, like, we sort of met in that Facebook group, didn't we, where people was trying to tell me that these things are in the UK and things like that. And just as I'm sitting here now, I mean, I'm on a road, A15. I'm just off the side of off the A15 right now as we're speaking. And this place here is notorious for sightings. And again, the problem with a lot of this is people in the UK don't want to talk about this stuff. It's more so accepted now. UFOs are more so accepted in mainstream. It's not so radical if you say, "Oh, I've seen a UFO," that sort of thing. But Bigfoot, this sort of creatures, they're still a little bit taboo. I think that's changing in the States, and obviously if it changes in the States, it will change in the UK, and we will get more people coming out with these tales as well. But that's the story. That's everything that's happened so far, because obviously it's an ongoing situation.
Just going back to me saying that this creature disappeared, and I was thinking about it. Of all the people who would say you're absolutely crazy, something can't just disappear in front of your eyes. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. We have animals out there that can change colour. We have fish, deep sea fish, that can make their own lights. There's, like, the octopus can actually change its texture to hide from things. So is it so far-fetched that something could evolved to bend light to give the appearance of disappearing. I don't think it is when you think of all the, the other incredible creatures out there. I don't think it is too far-fetched.
It's not. It's something that gets reported. I won't say so. I can't maybe give a percentage. Maybe 10-15% of the time, these encounters where people will say it just disappeared, and literally like opening a door and walking through it. This is not like disappearing back into the woods, because that's been reported, obviously. And other people I've spoken to will say it just squatted down like onto its belly, like an army crawl type style situation, where it was there 1 second and dropped down, it's gone, you can't see it. The disappearance, complete disappearance, like you're describing, that probably gets reported, like I say, about 10%, 15% of the time. So not regular by any means, but it is reported, and I don't know what that is. I don't know whether that's a trick of our mind, what it's doing, or if it's actually doing it. Because there is some research into pheromones and things like that that can trick your mind. This is like a known. This is like, they're doing this at the minute, the science and stuff, and maybe it's something it gives off, like a pheromone, because you won't necessarily smell pheromones. People do report smells from time to time, but pheromones, not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily smell that. So and then obviously the infrasound gets reported, which would do the same thing, confusion, that sort of thing. And I don't know whether it's something like you're saying, like you're suggesting, that this creature's evolved in a completely different way to do a certain thing, that sort of that's on the table, obviously, until we've caught up with these creatures, or if it's something more like the pheromone, that sort of thing, where it's something it's just manipulating within us. It's difficult to say because we don't know, but it does get reported. That's all I can say on that. But yeah, fantastic. I mean, again, thank you for coming on and sharing this. And again, if there's people out there that have had similar experiences, obviously come and tell us. That's what we're here for. If you could send the pictures of those rocks, that'd be interesting to have a look at.
I'll do it. I will do it in a minute. Yeah, because I think you'll be quite amazed when you see them. Yeah.
And then, like I said before, if you can get a dictaphone, anything like that, and you can record that banging, it'd be interesting to see if there's anything along with the bang, because obviously you're a distance away when it bangs. So we don't.
It's such. I say it's. I don't scare easy, but that frightens me, and I'm here on my own with my dog, and it really does frighten me, and there is absolutely no way I'm going to go outside to look.
No. It's interesting, though, how many people have those sorts of things and just put it down to ghosts and things like that. I've spoke to people, in a lot of people in rural locations. One lady did have a farm up here in Lincolnshire, and she had chickens going missing, things like that, and she was saying it was walking on the roof. And this is an old farmhouse. It's 3 stories. 2 stories in the attic, is a story, is livable. But she could hear it walking on the roof. I mean,
I have had something on my roof about 10 years ago. Again, 10 years ago, when there had been changes on the farm, and I moved into this room, bedroom, house, cottage, whatever you call it, and it was one of the first nights I was in here. And it was like something, in fact, tiles moved, something walking on my roof.
Yeah.
And I just laid there thinking, what the hell is that? There was nothing else. I couldn't do anything. No. But yeah, and that was, say, not long after I moved in here. Oh, probably more than 10 years ago now, but.
Yeah, and see, I mean, I didn't know you were going to say that, obviously. So that's quite that shocked me really. But yeah, I mean that has been reported to me. I mean, I don't know why they would do that, because it's obviously not going anywhere. It almost seems like it's trying to get closer to us, or when you're in a bedroom or whatever. I don't know what logic in it is. I'm just looking for answers as much as you are, so to speak. So
yeah.
I don't know, but like I say, that has been reported, and there you go. You've experienced it. But again, why would anyone listen, like hear that and think that it was this? You know what I mean?
If I hadn't seen what I saw, and if Mum hadn't seen what she saw, then I don't know what when things like that happen, I don't know what on earth I would be thinking it was, but
well, you won't. Most people just
mm,
hear it and then brush it off.
mm,
I don't know what that
yeah.
was, and then they move on with their life. And
I think the thing is here, like I said, I was born here. I know I lay in bed and I can hear the badgers fighting. I can hear all the animal noises out there. I know them, and they would scare a lot of people, and nothing like that phases me. And because I'm so used to all of that, and I know this isn't that, and after what I saw, I know hand on heart that this is not what we call natural English nature and animals. It's not. Well, saying that, I say it's not. I think they've always been here. I think they've always been here.
oh yeah, yeah. I think they've probably been here as long as we have. If they came
Yeah,
across,
yeah.
The Dogger Bank there between England and France, if they came across there when we did, then yeah, they've been here as long as we have. Obviously, they're more adapted to hide because they don't use tools, they don't use fire, they don't use the things that we did to survive. They've just gone completely the opposite way. But yeah, they're well adapted. But again, the creature that we see here, I know you say it's possibly a juvenile, the one you saw, because it's 5'6" sort of thing. But that ain't out the realms of the average sort of height of these things that people report. Very rarely you get something that's sort of over 6 foot here. I mean, don't get me wrong, it does happen. People do report that, but it's rare. I mean, most people say around the 6 foot mark, not much bigger than that. So, or smaller. So,
I think it stands to reason when you say look at all the reports in America, and some of them are colossal heights, and we're much smaller.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it is two different creatures that we're
yeah,
looking at. Yeah, I think what America's got and what we've got is different.
I do.
But, and again, the legs being more dog-like.
This was definitely more dog-like. When you see like Bigfoot on TV, it was the shape of the body was not Bigfoot. It was not the typical Bigfoot.
Again, that is reported in the UK. We do get the odd Neanderthal style creature reported, but in general, what you're describing is more akin to what most people see. A couple of reports I've just taken recently have been that creature. So whatever that is, and again, then people say dogman, this kind of thing, because of those legs when they see it moving and that. But again, the face, generally speaking, is more man-like. So and then it moves into the werewolf territory and things like that from the ancient times. But
that's what's confused me, because I would say dogman, but I didn't see the face, or what I did see of the face looked flat. And that's what throws me with it, to actually know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see it again one day. Maybe I never will. I don't know.
Well, if it's there, you never know. But yeah, again, thank you very much for sharing your story. And if you
enjoyed it,
if anything else crops up, then please let me know.
Yeah.
Send them pictures, and I'll share them on the Bigfoot and Dogman Facebook group. I'll also share them on the Bizarre Tales Facebook group as well, so people can see them.
Okay. All right, will do. Yeah. All right. Well, take care out there. And
indeed, and you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, so there you go, people. Fascinating story from here in the UK again. These things are ongoing. If you've seen anything, please let us know. The email is supernaturalpod@gmail.com. That's supernaturalpod@gmail.com. Or contact me via Facebook. I'm easily accessible, and I will return messages almost immediately, depending if I'm driving or not. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, and please share, like, do all that stuff, review if that's possible. But yeah, thank you very much, Daisy, for coming on. Absolutely compelling. And these things are in the UK. No matter what anybody tells you, they're here. So, that being said, I'll see you on the next episode.